All right, guys. We move on now to the final email question of the day, and then we're going to get ready to go over to your guys' live questions for you guys who are watching live. And this one's a doozy. This one comes to us from Keith Thomas, who writes, John, I know you're always trying to see the positive side of Warner Brothers, and you often say they're not stupid, these are smart people. But this article from The Wrap proposes that they are still just people. And the ultimate failing of Justice League is a combination of indifference, incompetence, and good old-fashioned self-interest. All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And, the thing that Keith is bringing up and what Keith is talking about here is this article in The Wrap that is really quite eye-opening. And to be honest, there's a lot of stuff in this report that everybody already knew. But there's a couple of things in there that people maybe didn't know. For instance, one of the things in The Wrap talked about was that there was a lot of WB executives that wanted to fire Zack Snyder before Justice League started. But the problem was, by the time, Batman versus Superman didn't, succeed the way they wanted it to succeed, they were just weeks away from starting shooting on Justice League. It was too late. Everybody in the industry knows that. Everybody knew that's the truth. That's the fact. There's a lot of people in Warner Brothers who wanted to fire Zack Snyder, but they just decided ultimately it would cost too much. It would cause too much upheaval. We'll never meet our release dates if we change the director now, so they just stuck with them. There's also stuff in this article, in The Wrap that Keith is referring to, that everybody knew, which is, number one, even while Justice League was being shot, Warner Brothers executives couldn't agree amongst themselves as to which direction the movie should go. Some wanted to keep going the way, the thing was going. A lot of people in WB executives wanted to take it away and start to change direction. So that fight was still going on even while the movie was shooting. And so Zack Snyder was still on the film, and he was getting more and more pressure to do things more and more Joss Whedon's way, because Joss Whedon was now on board. That, then the tragedy happened with Zack, but Zack was already under a tremendous amount of pressure when that happened, before that horrible tragedy struck his family. So that was in there. The part that gets my attention is this. This is the main part of this story that has me and a lot of people kind of going, what's going on here? As most of you know, AT&T is going to be merging in with Warner Brothers. At least that's that's what it looks like. And AT&T has taken over Warner Brothers. That happens in 2018. Their source at The Wrap, who's a Warner Brothers insider at WB, claims that the main reason, because you guys remember, I've been talking about this for months. I said a few months ago, remember I told you guys, hey guys, look, I've been told by reliable sources that there is some discussion in Warner Brothers about pushing off Justice League into 2018 to give themselves more time. Those things actually happened. But according to this report, the reason they did not move it in 2018, because remember, by the time Joss Whedon took over the director's chair, he had less than 6 months to get that movie ready, to do all the changes that they wanted, all the reshooting, all the new visual effects, all that kind of stuff, less than 6 months. And how hard have I been moaning and whining and complaining that, God, you should have pushed this movie into 2018 to give yourselves more time, all right? I'm not the only one. A lot of you guys have been saying the exact same thing. Well, here's where the big question mark comes in here. And this is where the controversy is going to surround. According to this WB insider that The Wrap has, their insider says that the reason Kevin Tsujihara, who's in the picture with Ben Affleck here, and I've been a fan for the last 6-7 years of Tsujihara. I think he's a smart dude. I think he's done, not so much with the with the DC stuff, but Warner Brothers has done some really good things over the last number of years, aside from the DC stuff. But according to this insider, the main reason that Tsujihara would not let Justice League get bumped into 2018, which I think everybody agrees would have helped Justice League a lot, to give them more time to make the film they wanted to make, all that kind of stuff, to market it better, all that. Just pushing it to 2018 would have done a lot of good. Anyway, the report claims that the only reason Tsujihara would not let it get pushed into 2018 is because if it comes out in 2017, its box office results goes towards his personal bonuses that he gets from Warner Brothers. And if he allowed it to be pushed into 2018 after the merger happens, all that kind of stuff, he wasn't even sure. Nobody's really sure who's still going to have their jobs or who's still going to be there once that merger happens. To simplify it, what this source is claiming, and by the way, I have no idea if this is true or not. I'm just telling you what the report claimed, okay? I don't know that this is true. I hope it's not true. I desperately hope it's not true. But the bottom line is that this report claims that Tsujihara said, you know what? I don't make any money for myself if this movie gets pushed into 2018. Fuck it. I don't care if this movie is too rushed and is terrible now. Release it in 2017 so I can get my bonus. That's what this report is claiming. That's what the report is claiming, that Tsujihara and one or two other top executives at Warner Brothers was their rationale for making and forcing Justice League to keep that release date instead of pushing it in 2018, like we all think would have been a better idea, because he would have risked some extra bonus money for himself personally if it got pushed into 2018 instead of just releasing it in 2017. Again, I cannot emphasize enough that we do not know that this is a fact, okay? Let's make that the underlying assumption and understanding for everything that we're saying here is we don't know that this is fact. But if, huge universal size if, okay? Let's take this huge, big if. If that claim is true, if somebody in the position of a Kevin Tsujihara or other executives of Warner Brothers purposefully undermined their own cinematic universe, if they purposefully sabotaged their own movie franchise for their own personal benefit instead of looking out for the best interests of the company as a whole, which is what their responsibility is, to look out for the best interests of the company as a whole, if they purposefully undermine their own movie and undermine their own cinematic universe for personal gain, I don't know if there are criminal things to be done here, but they instantly got to go. They got to be fired. I don't care if I've liked them up to this point. If this is true, and we do not know if it's true, but if Warner Brothers conducts some kind of internal investigation into this and finds out that was a motivating factor for Tsujihara not to do what was best for the company, which is move Justice League into 2018, give Joss Whedon more time to actually do all these changes you wanted him to do, and ultimately make the fans happier. No. Force it to stay where it is so I can collect a bonus check for me? If that happened, if that's the truth, and if that's what comes out, Warner Brothers needs to do more than just a little bit of a shakeup, okay? It's time for rebuilding. In sports terminology, when a team is really bad and they don't have, a bright future ahead of them, instead of just keep going on and make one or two trades and add one or two new players, no. Teams go into what they called a rebuilding phase. Great teams do this because it builds champions. When they start to struggle, they go into a rebuilding phase where it's like, you know what? Get rid of everybody, fire the GM, fire the coach, trade away our best players, get some draft picks, let's build for the future and build on a solid foundation. And then they eventually win championships. If this is what's happening with Warner Brothers, and this type of corruption is in Warner Brothers, again, I don't care if I'm repeating it 1,000 times, it's important. We don't know this is the case, so this is a huge if. But if that's true, and that type of corruption is in Warner Brothers, where they're undermining their own cinematic universe for a couple of guys to line their pockets with a few extra bucks, then Warner Brothers can't just get rid of one guy. Warner Brothers needs to clean house. The board has to step in and say, you're all gone. Not just the CEO, but all you underlings who worked for him before. Don't tell me you didn't know what was going on. You're all gone. And get rid of all of them. And the board of Warner Brothers needs to start from scratch, rebuild this thing, and put in better leadership. Because if they have that type of a culture of corruption over there, that they're undermining their own artistic endeavors just so they can personally make a few extra bucks, I mean, where do you go from there? What do you do with that? And here's the part that really upsets me the most, okay? Now, I'm somebody, I don't care what anybody else says or thinks. Screw you. I'm a DC fan. I've been a fan. I'm one of the only film guys out there who's given positive reviews to all the DC films. I stand by it, but at the same time, I don't stick my head in the sand and go, I don't see any problems. I don't ignore the problems. I acknowledge the problems. I talk about the problems. As a result of that, there are some hardcore, what I call the zombie corporate slave DC fanboys, who give me a hard time. And there are hardcore zombie corporate slave Marvel fanboys who give me a hard time too. I don't care, Inhuman sucks. Anyway. But here's the thing that really upsets me. Even these zombie corporate slaves, whatever, these DC hardcore fanboys who give me a hard time, guess what? They love your stuff. They have supported your stuff. And maybe I don't like the way corporate zombie slaves go about expressing their love for that kind of stuff, and I think they're actually kind of toxic in many ways. But the fact of the matter is, you got a whole core of people out there who have supported you, endorsed you, fought for you, and behind the scenes, your upper leadership is undermining their product just so they can line their own bucks while screwing over these other guys, these fans who have been sitting there and supporting you, fighting for you, arguing for you, and you're screwing them? That's already, look, as fans, we can all have different opinions and argue and butt heads and come at it from different points of view. That's great. But we're all fans. And when you screw one group of fans, you're screwing all the fans. And you're screwing all of us. Again, if it is true, and we don't know that it's true. For all we know, maybe this WB insider that they have over there that the rap is talking to, maybe he's just some disgruntled guy at Warner Brothers who's mad at Kevin Tsujihara because he wants Kevin Tsujihara's job and they gave it to him instead. I don't know. Like, for all I'm saying, I'm just saying, if it's true, it's fucking nonsense if it's true. Anyway, I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of things that you're going to want to say about this as well when we get into the live Twitter part here. We're going to do that now in just a second. But before we get to the live tweets, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about this whole WB situation because I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to bring it up. It's time for my little commercial break where I do my daily shameless plug of my Patreon campaign, which is the thing that keeps...